So today, I'm going to be doing something really cool. I'm going to try to prove to you that 1 is equal to negative 1. Now before I do this, there's a few things that you have to understand. You have to know that the square root of negative 1 is what we call an imaginary number. And therefore, if I were to square both sides here, we get that I squared is also equal to negative 1 in this case. So that's going to be what we have to know before we try this out. So I'm going to try to prove this to you in 6 steps here. So the first one is, if I have negative 1 over 1, that's clearly equal to 1 over negative 1. The next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So we get the square root of negative 1 over 1 is equal to the square root of 1 over negative 1. Step 3 here, I'm simply going to make this the square root of negative 1 over the square root of 1 equal to the square root of 1 over the square root of negative 1. And now, based on what I said before, we know that the square root of negative 1 is equal to I. So step 4 here, this square root of negative 1 right there is the same thing as I. And we know the square root of 1 is simply 1. And then on the other side, we'll also have this becomes 1 over, and then again we have the I. Step 5 here, I could simply go ahead and cross multiply in this case, and I times I would become I squared, and 1 times 1 would just be 1 in this case. So in step 6, we also said that I squared is the same thing as negative 1. So I'm just going to change I squared to negative 1 here, and I wind up with negative 1 equals 1, and thus I've proved it. So clearly though, we know that negative 1 can't be 1, so there must be an error in this proof somewhere. So the question that I'm posing to you guys is, can you find the error in my proof here? Go ahead and see if you can figure it out for yourself, and try leaving some comments below if you figure it out.